I just want to thank Dan for putting this presentation together for us. And I know we had originally said it was going to be 3 segments. We think it's going to be 2, but actually, Dan, the third segment may be just a question and answer period, because we only have an hour and I know you're going to give a lot of information out. So maybe the third segment can be a recap of highlights and questions and answers if we don't get to them in our time period. So thank you. But I
I'm
would
always available for consultations. I'll throw that out there.
okay, good. Well, I would like to just introduce Dan. Dan Pace is the founder of Genuine Technologies and helps local businesses and nonprofits implement AI and technology effectively and securely. His agency builds custom AI agents and automations that have saved over 1,000 hours of work on marketing, business operations, and data analysis, unlocking new workflows that often were impossible before, and training staff so teams can build confidently without constant back and forth consultations. Dan feels genuinely privileged to apply this technology in ways that strengthen business and nonprofits, and he is honored whenever chosen to help you use technology to make the fire that drives your mission burn brighter. Thank you, Dan. And with further ado, we'll get this show started. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. So, yeah, as she said, I'm Dan Pace, founder of Genuine Technologies, and help people kind of move forward with technology or to put a pun out there, keep pace with technology, right? Let me start up my slideshow because that's where all the good stuff is.
And Dan is a frequent flyer at MODC too, supporting the organization.
Here. Is that up? That look up for everyone?
Yes.
Right. So, yes, many industries, especially nonprofits, are being a little challenged right now, being challenged to do more with less, as if their missions weren't challenging enough, right? But our technology's got a great history of helping people to be a big help in this regard. So, helping us leverage our time and effort to do more. So now AI is playing a major role like that, with helping us explore, and I'm going to help us explore some basics to help us raise some capabilities so we can do more with the same tools we have today. Hopefully, to a point where you're crawling or walking with this stuff, and maybe yeah, at least crawling or maybe even walking with the AI and able to build this and develop it a bit yourself. But some of the early successes I've had with using some AI tools for the nonprofit work that I used to do for Chef Lee's Army, that was a food security nonprofit. We started in 2020, and over the next 3 or 4 years, did 230,000 meals. So I got to learn a whole lot of you know aspects of nonprofit work, from auditing to the record keeping to doing donations, receipts, from launching events, the whole 9 yards, and all pretty quickly. So it's tough to keep pace with it all. But AI helped a lot along the road. Some of the things that I did with AI was doing these podcasts that we did with Chef Lou. Chef Lou sit down with some of the local leaders in our town, did about 6 long podcasts, and I think throughout all of them we got 600 views, which wasn't anything too noteworthy. Then some AI tools come around, and I split up those long podcasts into about 24 different short videos, and then we got 20,000 views out of those short videos. So being able to leverage that content that we made in the video with AI made a huge difference there. We also used some AI image generation to help make multiple sponsorships and graphics instead of paying for a designer to make these for a golf outing to give the sponsors their sponsorship. And again, that saved probably about 1,000 hours, $1,000 in costs for designing and making the tools manually. You see the slideshow on the screen, right? Yeah, just a slideshow. I just got to
No, we're not seeing your deck, Dan. We're seeing your notes.
the notes. What's up? What I want to share them.
You see a document.
Oh, like this document. Not the most.
Mhm.
Yeah, me do the screen. Okay, now it's doing it. But hit the wrong screen. Actually, I
There you
hit the right
go.
screen. Didn't register my click. Oh, you didn't miss anything. That was the first slide. So, some of the aspects, yes, I saved about $1,000 probably in just making the graphics myself or being able to make them myself. And then the last major one that I did was making an automated email to send an IRS compliant receipt, which we have to do every time a donation comes in. And I just made a small automation, piece of software or program, and I was able to cut the cost of our payment processor, which is about $1,000 too. So I'm just those three little examples. I've saved about $2,000 and also raised 19,400 views in our social media just by using a little bit of AI and being a little creative with it. So there's lots of ways you can use these tools, but you do need to be a little creative in finding the ways. But we're going to go into Google Gemini to show kind of a basic level that crawling or walking with AI. And the major areas that I'm going to be showing is mainly these: research, writing, and multimedia. So like researching your documents or researching the internet, writing proposals, writing social media content, and multimedia like making images or making presentations. And the reason I'm choosing Google to show in this presentation is because Google has a grant where nonprofits can get a tier of their subscription for $0. So this is something that all nonprofits do have available to them for free. If they go to google.com/nonprofits workspace and compare, or just search nonprofits for Google and this will come up. So it is free, but it is also this term called SOC 2 compliant, which is just some fancy cybersecurity jargon for Google has a long list of requirements that they meet that says they keep your data and your privacy secure in the way it's supposed to be, which not all AI companies are doing, and very few are doing it for a price of free. Google is one of the few ones that you can trust that is keeping your data compliant. And as you go through AI looking for your new tools and new practices, be sure you look for that type of term, SOC 2, or another one's ISO, which is actually a stronger, more compliant, more secure version too. But yeah, if you want to see that in your AIs and your tools that are going to be using sensitive information like client information or business information. And the things you get with that Google nonprofit tier, some of the basics: your email, your Google Drive access for files, Google Sheets, Docs, all those things, and video calls. You want to take a moment to say that the video call does have a feature where you can do AI note takers. So just like this call has on it, is an AI that's listening in, taking notes, going to put out the highlights of what we're talking about. And for like a business call, it's going to also track who said is going to do what, like what to-do list is going to be, and assigning those to-do lists to people on the call. It's a really neat tool to help refer back to old calls, so you don't got to rely on your memory, because I know my memory personally, and probably a lot of people I know, isn't always that great. I love having something I can fall back on. And it's free, it's included. The stuff that we're going to touch on a little more, particularly the AI stuff, the access to Gemini AI and NotebookLM. So in Gemini AI, we can do things called deep research, integrated into our Google Drive. So we have a lot of access to a lot of files that we have from the past, and make presentations, images, and even music. It's kind of fun. And then NotebookLM, we can do research in all these documents. We can write, also create graphics and presentations as well. So that's the quick slideshow. Let's get into the demo. All right, so for our demo, I want to start off with just showing you a little bit of Gemini, just walking around the platform here for a second. And I'll start with going into the settings and making sure we're connected to Google Drive, because that does help us a lot getting access to our files and other information, particularly for this demo, the files. And it is checked off, so we have access. We're good there. Other thing I want to point out is this button here, the fast, it says. You can also choose Thinking, Pro. This is where you can choose your AI model. Pro is going to use the latest, greatest model. With your nonprofit subscription, you do only have a limited use of that, though. Like every couple of hours, they give you 3 uses. Thinking uses the same model that we're using, Gemini 3, which is only one step below. It's still pretty good. But it thinks through the problem, and it takes a lot longer to answer the question, which puts a lot more work in and raises the quality of your answer. For sake of time, this presentation, I'm going to be using the fast one. Although in most of my actual work, I would probably use something like Pro or Thinking, because it just gives a better quality result. I want to mention tools here. This is some of the aspects of AI. Can create an image. You can tell it to create the image. You can create a video when you have a subscription. This won't be in the nonprofit tier though. Canvas helps with writing, and we're going to go into that a little later. Deep research helps with finding a lot of information on the internet. We're going to go into that a little later. And creating music makes a little jingle, which is pretty fun. We'll do that soon too. Guided learning, I won't go into, but it is kind of neat if you're doing some sort of tutoring or need to learn. You can give a big PDF or a big manual, and it'll ask you questions to help you guide you to the answer rather than just giving you answers. It's pretty neat for tutoring. Spend a second to mention this add files, so we can upload files that we have downloaded, or files from our Google Drive, or even files from our NotebookLM, which kind of groups a bunch of files together, and we'll see that a little later. And the last thing to mention is gems. So I'm going to create a gem, what is sort of a saved, trained, basically trained AI. So I hit gems over here and hit new gem to make a nonprofit gem, let's call it. And it's going to help me write nonprofit content. Let's give it some instructions. So it has like a basic role that's going to be, which is which is just kind of basic. You could build out this instruction a lot more for a more professional gem, but just doing something kind of quick. And this is also a great part. The reason why I want to make this nonprofit gem is because I can add a bunch of files about my nonprofit, and then it'll be trained on essentially my nonprofit. It'll know about my mission. It'll know the programs. It'll know some of the results that we've had in the past. And I'm going to do that by adding this folder. So a folder I made of my nonprofit type information. So there's a couple of, this one here is our website just printed out. So it has all the information from our website, a couple of letters of support from the past recipients, organization information that I've saved over the years from writing proposals. So it's just the basic answers I put in proposal over the years, so I can refer back to them. And I can add this all in at once by selecting the folder and hit insert, and it loads, and we're good. So now you can hit save. So anytime I click that nonprofit gem, this nonprofit, I ask it a question, it has all of the data just ready to go to tell me about it. So tell me about Sheffield Army, and it'll go into those PDFs I just uploaded, and tell me stuff about them. What I'm going to do is come up with some social media content based on that information. So yeah, some background information about the Sheffield Army nonprofit used to run. Actually, first, let me make a new chat. This way it's nice and fresh. And here's a prompt I just had on the side here. Just to help me come up with social media topics. That would be good service ideas from Sheffield Army and use information in the Google Drive. So if anyone's struggling to come up with an idea, you can actually just look at the information, all your past work, and have AI, hey, come up with something that's attention grabbing, something that might score good on social media, and it's going to come up with a whole bunch of ideas for you. So just looking for halfway decent one I can make real quick into a kind of hero story. Yeah, let's go with the gap filler for seniors and veterans, like that. So another gem I made, actually, this is pretty recent, and this is thanks to Phil Dorita, so I want to give him a shout out. I was watching a talk that Phil was doing about how to create your hero story, and he gave a sort of formulaic way to make a prompt, like make a story. So I put that into an AI with its settings. Let me see if I can show it to you. So put that into one of these gems with some instructions. So it'll take the following information, create a social media story. It's a hero. The client is the guide. All the stuff that he told me to do in his talk, which I'm sure many of us come across on maybe a social media post or another talk about something that we wish we could emulate, sometime later, not at that moment. Well, we save that talk and then put it into an AI. That talk and that formula can be saved for us to access later and make stories. So for like this one, I'm going to copy and paste that social media idea the AI gave me and tell this AI to make it a story. Again, using the information from my nonprofit, so it has some awareness of what we do. And so I made a quick story. It told me about the problem, how seniors have heartbreaking no kitchen issues and had just get food pantry goods. I can't turn them into actual meals because they don't have the kitchen to actually prepare the food. Also, it's using this as genuine technology, so I need to fix that. But it should say Sheffield's Army here acted as a guide that helps streamline resources and, make an effect. But anyway, now I'll take this information and turn it into a quick image. And while that's doing that, I also want to put this into a NotebookLM. Start showing you guys that. This is something I did previously in NotebookLM. This is so I'll get you in 1 second, Margine. This is something I did previously in NotebookLM, kind of the same concept where I had a social post idea where it was using the resource bridge. So I'm going to put in like a new one. So it shouldn't take too long, actually. Now I'll deselect my old file. Here's the new file. And I want to make an infographic about this content that I just put in here. I typically choose concise, so it gives me a little less wordy. And I can also add some information here. So maybe like I'll do a color scheme. Let's make it red, white, and orange. And then I'll generate that. Usually takes around 3 to 5 minutes though for that. So I'll come back in a few seconds. Great, you give us a quick image here. So I could use this as social media to make a post, to show our story, and I can make it one little bit better by using. However, the music does sometimes take a while, so I'm just going to show you an old song I did last night, so you can kind of see that they're kind of fun to listen to.
Ooh, this Christmas, lost in a paper winter storm, searching for a brighter morning. The resource bridge found a new way through. Genuine tech made our wishes come true. Giving future the new foundation, a gift of hope for the whole nation.
So I mentioned Christmas. I didn't want to mention Christmas, so I put in a quick edit to the AI. Asked it, don't mention Christmas and tell a story of finding resources, yada yada. I made another story. You can edit these, so
In the paper labyrinth, searching for a path I missed. The help was always within reach. A language I could finally speak. Genuine tech made our wishes come true. Giving future the new foundation. A gift of hope for the whole nation.
So you pull that song and you could put it as a like a package track for what you're doing for your social media post.
Hey, Dan, I'm a little upset here. I copyrighted that song in 1978, you
Oh
know?
wow, you got to take that up with Gemini. Then you got a lawsuit
I'm
on your
calling
hands.
my attorney right now.
Yeah, you got a lawsuit on your hands. It's not me though; it's Gemini. And then last, before I take a break for a question, this is the infographic that NotebookLM put together. So whereas Gemini made a image, we'll go back to it. There's a little more image, straight image. No, yes, the image I made. This is a little more straightforward of a picture. NotebookLM made more of an infographics and some details so people can like read and see what you're doing, which I use a lot of times in my marketing. So I'm going to take a pause here for a question because that's kind of the social media aspect I wanted to show of using Gemini. Before I go into like a proposal aspect that I wanted to show. After that. Yeah, so you can kind of generate ideas, make images, make some music to make it kind of unique, and even make infographics to help share details. Margine, you had a question? Let me pause here for a second.
Yes. Back when you were showing us about that gem where you could load in documents that contain information or whatever, would it also be possible for you to, instead of having to create a bunch of documents, refer to a web page or something like that? Because I'm thinking of how a lot of content for nonprofits has already been put on their web page, but would you have to instead copy that content into a document and then, for the AI to grab?
Yeah, essentially. Gemini, you'll need to have a PDF or some sort of document or the Google Drive. So if you go to the website that you're saying, like say Impact 100, because we talked about this a bunch on these calls, you can hit the website, go to print, and save as a PDF. And that effectively will do what you need it to do to save information from the website. It's kind of a workaround. Some other AI tools, usually the ones that you have to pay for, and not ChatGPT or Google Gemini, or I'm not sure if Copilot has this either. But yeah, some other tools you can add in the web link and it'll go and scrape the website and pull it in and use that information. What you can also do though, it's sort of again another kind of workaround, is actually just type in the website. Let's not edit. If I go back to that Impact 100 page, you just save that link.
By the way, I'm affiliated with that nonprofit.
Yes, that's why it keeps coming up, I guess. But yeah, if you just give it the link and say, tell me about this web page, I believe it can go to the web page and kind of like see it. Yeah, see, so it's aware of what's on the page since you gave the AI the link. So Gemini could do that as another kind of workaround. But as far as making those saved AIs, the gems, you do need a document. But again, there's other tools that you could do website. Any other questions before I get into the proposal side of this? All right, so for proposal writing, something I really wanted to show, I'll start off with doing a deep research for proposal writing. Well, finding proposals is kind of the first step, right? So starting off in Gemini, I'll give it this question: find ongoing grants, for food insecurity, and hunger relief, since that was my spot. Again, if I were to do this seriously, I'd be using Pro or one of the higher end AI models. I'll hit tools and hit deep research. So this does is it scrapes the internet for all sorts of whatever it can find, essentially. But before it does that, it comes up with a research plan. So it'll tell you kind of the plan it has, the plan of attack it has to go attack the internet and find the information. So it'll find current federal grants first, then I'll go into New Jersey state level grant programs, then I'll look for local government grant programs, search for private community foundations, grants offered by larger regional food banks, and then the last step, grant opportunities for the eligibility requirements, deadlines, things like that. And if I'm okay with this plan, I say, okay, go and do it, or I can hit edit plan. I'm just going to say, start research, but this does take about 10 to 15 minutes. So there's no point in starting this research. It won't finish in time. I have one of these already done. And here's where the result starts. We'll scroll all the way down. Here's where it ends. It's pretty long. And it goes through all of these sources. So these are all the websites you would have had to otherwise go through and search by hand to find that same amount of information. And this is getting done in about 10 to 15 minutes. For you to go through that equivalent amount of work, quite a lot more. So I have this saved already in a separate document, kind of a Google Sheet over here. Now, first step to actually understand what's in here, you could either read the 25 pages that this is, or you can put into NotebookLM. This one I think was. You can put into this NotebookLM. And that's what this document is here on the left. So what I'm doing next is creating a mind map on that document. Let's see with basic mind map, which I already have done here, but these only take a few seconds to generate, so they're pretty quick. And it goes over that entire document kind of at a high level. So it tells you the national and federal funding that's in there, as well as the programs that it found, and the individual programs that are in that program. The corporate foundations, some of the corporate foundations it found, several of which I was a happy grant recipient of. So thank you to Walmart and my dad. And I'm going to go through these kind of quickly in case anyone sees something that's of interest to them. I'm not going to elaborate on anything in particular, though, just to show you the programs that it found. So it was pretty extensive. It found quite a lot. I was a little surprised it found Sustain and Serve because that program hasn't been around or active for quite a while. So there's a couple names you recognize here. Stop and Shop. So as you go through this at a high level, you can see which one of these are interesting to you and then dig in a little more. So for instance, we've talked about Impact 100 a whole bunch of times on these calls. So I want to touch a little more into that one because it did show up, I believe, in this. Let me find it again, though. Here, Impact 100. So when I click any one of these, it'll tell me from the source that's on the left that's selected, what about it is in that source, so I can find more information rather than behind level one-liner that's here. Be generating pretty soon. Yeah, so this is the general information that was in this document that you have to read 25 pages for to pick out this one organization's grant, which we used AI now to pull it out, and now we just see what we need to see, not all the noise. So I want to say make a proposal for this Impact 100, or at least start a proposal for it. So let's do for that. So I made a new NotebookLM for that. So you go to the next one here. So you see a couple more files on the left. We have Impact 100, which is that grant application from the Impact 100 grant. And we have my CLA organization, Shipley's Army stuff. This is all my background information that I showed you before. So this NotebookLM has the information about the grant I'm applying for, as well as information about my nonprofit. And again, I want to go into this mind map for just the Impact 100. So I want to see what in particular this Impact 100 requires of me to apply. So again, it's just first I select the one file in the checkbox here, hit mind map, and it'll generate a mind map for me again. But I already have one done. Yes. So now again, Impact 100 grant is kind of big, so I can go over it at a high level by going through the whole thing, just by pulling out the check marks here. But I'm going to use this mind map to actually make a proposal pretty quickly. So what's going to make this proposal, the final proposal, probably won't be the grantee requirements, so I'll get rid of that. I won't need to talk about our exclusions because we don't meet any of the exclusions, so that's why we're applying for it after all. I will want to talk about a focus area that we address, so I want to leave this up for a second. I will want to talk, we don't need to worry about collaboration criteria because that's eligibility things. I get rid of that.
We're just going to start.
I'll leave the proposal requirements because we do want to mention how we'll meet these requirements. Really, we don't need to talk about agree with that. And the grant process, don't need to talk about agree with this. And funding priorities good. And also the mission. So the way I'm going to make a proposal really quickly is I'm going to unselect the application because I don't care about that anymore. I'm going to select all my background information. So this could be all your past proposals you've written or the past grants you've applied for in the past. Your website, just, hit background information about your organization. And if I were to make this application right now, I'd probably start off with, what do we do? Well, we do health and wellness. So how does health and wellness apply to all of these sources that I have on the left selected, my nonprofit? Yeah, it's going to go through them, give me a basic background answer, pulling information that's relevant to that question. Takes a little bit of time. I also, so now it has that done, good. I also do want to talk about why it's got laid out just now. Okay. Do want to talk about how we meet the funding priorities that they have. Actually, how we serve Monmouth counties first. So we want to start abroad, go in, to answer that question. And I'm going to go and talk about our expanded and sustained programs that the nonprofit has, just by, again, one click of a button. If anyone has a question that they want to throw out, they can. So there's going to be a little loading time here. That answered that. Then we'll go into underserved populations.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
All right. So if we all use this, are all the applications going to look the same?
No, because this isn't going to be a final product. First, you don't have different background information because everyone's nonprofit's different. But two, this is pulling out the background information that's in your proposals. So instead of scouring all of those proposals for those little sentences that you would be otherwise copying, pasting over, or pulling out and rephrasing, it's doing that for you. It's doing all that background research. And then you take that finished results into something a little more polished, which I'll show you in another step or two. Actually, I'll skip the next two steps. But I would again click unmet local needs, click high impact local beneficiaries, and it give me that background information. But I did this, last night. I have it all saved in a Google Doc over here. So I'm just going to work off of this. So the next step that I would do after I made my really rough background information, I would actually ask the NotebookLM to make the proposal itself. I can do that by asking it to make a report, which is this feature over here of NotebookLM. Now, the one it's going to generate, though, is going to be a little missing because it's not the full answer. But that would generate eventually this report, the comprehensive grant proposal that I'm showing here. Now, with this, I can save this as a file, which is probably the most easy thing to do, to document. And I can go back to Google. Actually, I'll go to my nonprofit Google since it's trade to my business. I'll add in that document that I just downloaded, the comprehensive grant proposal. Now, say, actually, no, I'm sorry, I don't want to do this step just yet. I actually want to copy this into Canvas. Yeah, so putting that document into Canvas, it's going to put this into like a side view of Gemini, and then I can actually work on it in a whole different way. Once it pulls up, I'll show you that. So now that document is just in this kind of word editor that's AI powered. Now, when I do change things by hand, if I wanted to, just retyping manually. Or if I don't like this whole section, I can just highlight the whole section, write this simply and clearly, and it'll go ahead and do that. Or if there's one section that maybe isn't elaborated enough, like this conclusion's pretty weak. Once it generates, here you go. I guess conclusion's pretty weak, so I could just copy and paste, copy this whole conclusion. Say, elaborate on this, and make it better. So that all that information, that background information, we pulled out using the grant application as a source, as a framework. Now is in here, and we can now work with it and edit it using AI as well as using our normal typing skills. So a lot we can work with it. It's just getting a lot of the background information into one place from a bunch of different proposals and grant applications we've done in the past that the NotebookLM helps a lot with. And once you do have something kind of finished, you can get rid of Canvas and go to a new chat. Yeah, probably do the nonprofit chat, so it has information about your nonprofit, about your organization. And say we, submitted this application and we actually got picked for like a short list and they want to do a presentation with us. So they have better questions. We can actually make a presentation with AI too. So I'll just do create a short presentation. I'll again add in that finished comprehensive grant proposal, and I'll go ahead and make that. I can also do the same in a NotebookLM by adding in the grant proposal, so expanded grant proposal conclusion. This is the finished one, the comprehensive grant proposal. And then asking it to also giving it my background information, like I added the organization's info as the other document. And then asking it to make a presentation, which is the slide deck here. Typically, I'll select presenter slides and short. Again, gives you like bullet point type information, so you're not, just rambling about a lot of text on a slide. Again, you can add little notes, be simple and charismatic. I love saying charismatic for like a tone. It actually really adds a nice note, word choice, and use colors like red, blue, and orange. Again, this takes around 10 minutes to generate, so I'm not going to bother doing that. I have one already made. And you see it used our information, used the proposal that I had, and made a slideshow presentation in red, white, and orange. And a pretty graphical one at that. NotebookLM does make a really graphical presentations. A lot going on here. Whereas the presentations that I have going on in Gemini right now, I was getting an error. Go figure. Well, I have that already done anyway. The one that Gemini made for me last night was this one. It's a little more vanilla, a little more plain, but it does get made into something that you can put right into Google Sheets and then start editing, normally. So you can change all the word choice, change the pictures around. And it does still a pretty decent job. I wouldn't have put in a lot of these types of graphics myself. I wouldn't be this good with AI, especially this far, which took our primary funding partners and actually made a infographic out of it, so you can see that visually. Timeline. So yeah, I did all that in a couple of minutes when it worked, but sometimes it just doesn't work. You have to retrack. Probably a major reason why that didn't work is because it's nonprofit, actually. Chat times. I guess in summary, though, for this proposal part of it, we started with nothing. We did a deep research that scoured the internet to find a whole bunch of opportunities. We picked one of those opportunities by researching through AI, not reading the whole document. Then we picked one of those opportunities, researched that opportunity again using AI, not reading the whole document, and built in a rough draft of a proposal built off that document and from our past information from past proposals that answered very similar questions. We put that into Canvas where we were able to edit it and elaborate on a few things again using AI as well as normal manual editing. And once we had a kind of finished product, we were able to then make a presentation out of it in two different ways. One was the kind of straightforward Google Slides, which can edit all of this. And the other one was the graphical, no, it's not this one, the graphical NotebookLM version. I do want to mention, though, that NotebookLM, these are kind of harder to edit. What you can do is revise with AI. So I can like make an edit, ask it to do something, ask it to change something. But once you take this out into like a PowerPoint slide deck, if it comes out as images, it doesn't come out as a bunch of editable text. You can't really work with it outside of NotebookLM, at least not without doing a whole lot of graphics work to redo things. But that's a lot harder. I'm not going to go into this call. That's for graphic people, not for walking and crawling with AI. And yeah, I think that's kind of the conclusion of it. So I see Margine's got her hand raised.
I wanted to ask when it was creating the slide deck or whatever, it looks like it was just grabbing stock photos. What if you wanted to use your own photos?
Yeah, I can upload my own photos. Cause like this goes into Google Slide program. What do they call it? I think just Google Slides. And I can upload and copy my own photos in. Like say I want to, let me say I want to get MODC's picture and let's do that. MODC is always a good demo, right? So I'll quickly just copy this over and I can paste it. And I got my own photos. Yeah, so it's fully editable, especially the Google Gemini one. The NotebookLM is a little less so because, like I said, it uses all the AI generation. But it does make pretty good stuff. I actually wanted to show this one I made for Sheffield Army way back. So it's like a really nice presentation I thought because I never would have made this graphic, not a chance. But AI did it for me. I never would have made this little timeline thing, not a chance. AI did it for me. This is actually a really cool presentation. There's not a chance I would have made this myself. AI did though.
Give yourself enough credit.
Yeah, I made the sentence that made this. You're right. Yeah.
Dan, let me ask you here. I've been trying to avoid AI as much as I possibly can, because I'm on the tail end of things here. You obviously have convinced me that that's not a good idea. And so, where does one get started? And of all the products that are out there, what's your recommendation for somebody who's just getting started?
Well, again, from the nonprofit side of things, Google, because you get so much of this for free, you don't have to spend $1 for it. So that's always a nice bonus. Also, Google does have that security aspect, so that's another nice thing, especially if you're doing secure type of work. Outside of that, I am kind of leaning towards Claude right now. If you're willing to pay a couple bucks, like the $20 a month, Claude mostly because it uses tools the most. Actually, this is kind of where I break it into. ChatGPT has been the most accurate that I've found so far. So if you need like accurate information, I'd lean towards ChatGPT. Gemini's done the best with video. So if you need to make videos, so far I'd probably say Gemini. It used to do the best with images too, but ChatGPT just kind of took that over maybe 2 weeks ago. Of course, I keep going back and forth with that. Now, Claude, though, the place that Claude really shines is using tools and making presentations or images and working with your computer. That's just like the higher end AI stuff, which is probably what I'll get into in the next call when I'm running with AI. For example, the slide deck that I showed before that I had up, that was made with Claude, not with Gemini. And I thought that was pretty clean looking versus the other generations I made with the NotebookLM, which had a lot of stuff going on, which also looked cool. I can show you that real quick, I guess, if you'd like. But I have it up here. No, so I deleted it there. Let me see if I still have the other presentations that I made. Okay, this is what NotebookLM made for me when I was making that presentation I showed at the start of this. And like I said, nice and graphical, but I can't edit this AI powered, title up here. So I want to change a word. I can't. I have to go and use AI to change it. If this, text is like too small, which I kind of feel it was, I couldn't just quickly change it. I have to go and use AI to change it. It's such a pain sometimes. But I do like that at times I could pull out, like this slide was awesome. I actually kind of wanted to pull it out and put it into my other presentation. But I just chose to keep it the one style. But it's kind of where you kind of start to mix and match, especially for like larger presentations where that will work out. But if you only have 5 slides and you have this one random slide that has a different look and feel, and it doesn't look as nice. That's why I didn't do it. But if you have a 20 slide deck for a bigger presentation, yeah, you could mix and match, and that actually might help with the keeping people's attention too. And this is the one that Opus Claude had made for me. The full one is a few slides I took out because I didn't really need this information. But yeah, I'd say Claude for general use if you're willing to put in $20, because that's been the most useful for like business tasks so far. And ChatGPT has been the most useful for accurate information.
Thank you.
I don't know if this is important, Dan, but for Tom, like a new beginner, when you're using ChatGPT, I mean, I've always been told you have to fact check your stuff, make sure that it's accurate. Is that still true?
Yes, not as much. And again, this is also one of those spots where using the higher end AI models pays off a lot. Over the years, AI has added this thing called architecture. So, when you put in a prompt, it goes through a whole cycle of stuff that it does in the background that you don't even really realize it's doing. And one of those spots is fact checking. But when you're in that fast version that I showed, like Gemini Fast, it usually skips that step to give you an answer quicker. When you're in the pro version, it tends to check a little more so it's more accurate. And the AI that I like to use the most is GPT 5.5 Pro, which I'll show you guys because I love pushing this as a promotion of my own. One sec. Yeah, the AI I like to use the most is GPT 5.5 Pro or whatever the Pro version they had at the time, because their advanced AI GPTs right now is like the highest level. It's like PhD level intelligence, and it goes over and checks its answer a lot, especially when you're using website information, which is probably the most prone to inaccuracies. And the reason why I want to show you my website is I actually have a way that people can access this for free on my website. Just go to my chat in the bottom right corner, wake up the chat to say hi. Yeah, we say try advanced AI. It'll ask you for your name and email so I can send you this answer. It takes around 10 to 15 minutes for these questions to generate, which is testing how much more work these AIs are doing to make sure your answer is accurate. So it asks me for my name, it asks me for my email, and then I can ask it a question, a really tough question. They have a tough question they're dealing with, they want an answer for, something researched, or something that's interesting going on in life. I gotta change that. This is 5 Pro now, not 5.2.
The winning lottery members.
That's a really good question.
Actually, funny story. I did ask this about the Super Bowl when it came up, and it did get the wrong score, but it got the spread right. So I have to give it some credit for that.
Someone in Tom's River just won a lot of money.
Actually, that's an interesting one.
Not to be Debbie Downer, but this is what my husband does, IT security. If you're sharing information on this, you better make sure, especially if you're working with as a consultant or as not as a head of the company, that there's a policy in place. What are you sharing? Where is it going? There's plenty of scams on this. My husband has a company that in 9 minutes, one of these things wiped out the whole database of the company because somebody didn't follow protocol. So just, this is great and it will take a lot of, it will help a lot, but you still have to use some guardrails.
Yeah, if I had another hour, I would love to talk about AI policy. I'm probably one of the few companies that actually has an AI policy. If I even at my size, I'd bother to write it because I both agree with what you're saying. And also, you need to have these things in place so that the higher end systems that you're using that are capable of deleting your entire database have some guardrails in place that they don't. And if you skip AI policy, you're much more prone to do that. But yeah, you should have things like the purpose for the AI, scope, what's it doing, can explain what it's doing, monitoring, a whole lot here. There's a lot to talk about for AI policy for sure. Like I said, I couldn't even cram that in 30 minutes along with making your proposal. But thanks for mentioning it. I hope to add something to that in maybe part 2. If not, maybe that'd be the part 3 part because AI policy is such a discussion. I also want to mention data analysis. So if you do have a bit of data you want to analyze, like a spreadsheet, let's say, get some averages or maybe go through like a CRM of contacts, they can actually do that as well. Just add your data in the file. We're
Well,
gonna ask a question. So
yeah, we're
the
kind of
tool
running
to
out of.
try 5.5 Pro, but to try this on ChatGPT, you have to pay $200 a month just for your first prompt. So at least you can try a prompt, see its difference, see its value, and if it's there, then get it. If it's not there, then you didn't waste $200. So something I'm providing to people for free.
I think we're kind of running overtime. I know we
Yeah.
got started a little late, but we can always catch up with some more questions the beginning of next month's presentation. Write your questions down and maybe start with the Q&A and then go into what you have ready for us for running or walking with AI.
Yeah, that'll probably be a couple months, maybe like end of summer or fall. I did forget to mention, if anyone wants the slide deck or presentation, please put your email in the chat. I can send it to you. You know, just send it to Kim. I see she had the lead earlier. Same with Heather. But if you guys do want that presentation, I know it kind of went a little fast, so it'd be nice to be able to refer to it and pause it from time to time. So definitely want to offer that.
Yeah, that sounds great. That's a great resource, and hopefully, I know we're trying to build a library of resources, so this would be perfect. Thank you so much. Yeah, it's a lot of information, and there are pieces of it that I was familiar with, and pieces that I was not. So I'm sure everybody felt the same way. Excellent job, Dan. Thank you, and we look forward to hearing more or clarifying more or answering or getting Tom started.
And Tom started this.
Yeah, that could be a whole presentation itself.
I'll give you an update next month.